What's going on, guys? Welcome back for yet again another episode. I know it's been a very long time since my previous episode. A lot has been going on. I moved into my new house with my family. Here we are right now. A lot of renovations have actually taken a lot of the time away from you guys in the car. That's kind of delayed some stuff for myself. You know, I have to make sure that my family is living properly before I actually go ahead and turn my entire attention to the Honda, which has delayed a lot of time with you guys, but I want you guys to know that I've in that time worked on the engine harness, and I'm pretty sure I've completed what I can to do to go ahead and actually throw it inside the car. So I'm going to go over the entire process of what I had to do to make my swap work. I hope what I kind of create for you guys today is a little bit more detail oriented, maybe a little bit boring, but I think there's a lot of potential important information that I might share with you guys that could make your swap a lot easier. And we'll pretty much just go through that whole process, and we'll get back to making some regular videos again for you guys. One thing for sure is I honestly had a lot of fear going into this, because this is kind of like the most important step, I think, to getting your car to run. There's a lot of places that you can send off your harness and they can do all this work for you, or you can go ahead and buy this stuff online and have a complete harness done for you, but that kind of just takes the fun out of really learning something about the vehicle. Step one for me was pretty much just understanding this is the old Prelude harness. I've clipped off a lot of plugs and wires to just extend it onto the old D16 harness back over there. There's a boot seal over here where the ECU pinouts go. It actually connects over here on this side of the passenger side before it goes inside the actual vehicle inside the cabin. It's just basically like a weatherproof seal. I measured from that point. I went ahead and calculated every single wire in inches, and then I did the same thing with the Civic, and then I ended up just taking the difference between those two measurements that I calculated, and then I extended them. Pretty simple, honestly. I don't think you have to do every single one. There's a better look in case someone wants to pause that screen there. I don't know if you have to do every single extension I did, but there was a lot of different plugs that I did have to add, like the IAB, knock sensor, VTEC, and so on and so forth. I'll go over that with you guys a lot more when I get in there, but I just wanted to let you know kind of the first steps I had to do to really understand what I had to be doing on the car. One thing that's helped me out a lot is accessing the tech library on hamotorsports.com. I ended up buying my jumper harness from these guys too. These guys are great. They were pretty quick with responding with emails, and at the same time they gave me some information through emails, through just discussing with them some concerns I had, because I didn't know too much on what to do here, but they were helpful enough to give me some pointers and tips on what to do. What I would recommend whenever you guys go ahead and take anything off your vehicle, label each and every single plug. Go through your notebook or go through some type of online printout and just go through each plug, tape them off, and write every single connector that they are. Just going to save you a lot of work and headache if you do forget that step. So this is the starter solenoid wire. This one I actually extended roughly like 3 feet. It was actually pretty short on the D16. Just extended the oil pressure switch and coolant temperature sending unit lines. The oil pressure line I extended 33 inches, and with the coolant temperature sending unit I extended that one 42 inches. My first wiring modification was with the alternator. I had to, one, extend the length of all the wires. Roughly, I extended it 27 inches here, and at the same time I was working with a 4-pin ECU pinout on the OBD2A, and the OBD2B pinout that I had on my D16 was a 3-wire plug, so I had to add the extra wire from here and run it all the way to the ECU pinout on C connector, and that was C2 on the OBD2B, which is the alternator control wire, which is a white and green wire. What I did that helped me out a lot is I printed out my OBD2B ECU pinout, and I did the same thing with my OBD2A, which is from the Prelude, and from there I was just able to really understand where a lot of these wires had to come from and go. So still here with the alternator wire, there's going to be majority of the time where you're just going to be color matching everything, blacks with blacks, white reds with white reds, and like white blues with white blues. Then from there you just kind of look where this white green wire is going, figure out that information and just kind of study it that way, and then you'll kind of just know where everything is going. So this wire right here, this second one in, this orange wire, is actually the white-green wire. I fell short with the white-green wire that I just had a scrap piece of this orange wire. This is the alternator control wire right here. And what you do when you disconnect it is there's these small little pin areas right here where you can stick something small enough. I just use this little pin piece, and you pretty much just lock it in there and just gently put it up. And this little white little clip falls over top of the blue plastic, and that's unlocked it. You can see here that everything is just kind of raised. From here you can pull out your pins. I'll show you how to do that on a different pinout, but that's how easy it is just to unclip this so we can go ahead and pull out pins. But that's the C2 pinout. That's going to be your alternator control wire. You can take a small jeweler's screwdriver and access it from the other side and press it out and unclip that wire, or some ways of doing it as well, probably not recommended, is to physically pull out the wire. You could risk damaging the wire itself if you don't do it properly. With these connectors, just simply grab yourself a set of needle nose pliers, gently pull that blue clip out, and it'll allow you access inside there to also unclip one of those pins if you had to relocate them. Lean back the pin that you're pulling out a little bit in the opposite direction, and then it'll just clip out like that. Instead of just using this little, you can see this blue pin right here. It can be a little difficult to try and pull that back and pull it out at the same time. It's actually a little bit easier to just gently lean the actual pin itself in the opposite direction and pull it out at the exact same time. With these smaller clips, there's the release clip area here. Inside there on this side, you can actually see a small little a notch out of there. What you're going to do is you're just going to stick a screwdriver in there and gently just clip it out. It will fling out, but that's the easiest way to remove that. Alright, lastly is connecting your wires and soldering them together. Heat shrink, put it on before you expose the wire in here and connect them together. It's just easier to slip that on. Get yourself some type of wire cutter. Do the same for the other side that you're connecting to. And then just fan these open, kind of like that. Do the same thing for the other one. Okay, just fan them open just like that. Put them together, grab them, and then just slowly start rotating them together. Gently kind of pushing those wires towards the center as well. Like so. After that, grab your soldering gun and just apply the heat underneath of the wire, making contact with it. And then just kind of dab at it, release off of it so it doesn't kind of create a blob on the bottom. And that's it. And what you're looking for is you're just looking for coverage all the way around it. And that's good. Let it kind of cool down for just a second before you handle it. Kind of just do a pull test. It's good. Slide the heat shrink around it. Make sure it's nice and centered over that soldering point, and your connection is done. Next one I had to extend was the vehicle speed harness. I had to extend this one by 42 inches. Didn't have to add any wires, just simply extended everything, and that was it. Next wire is my IAC. Initially I had a 3-pin plug on this from the D16 that I had to convert into a 2-pin plug. And here I found out this information back on HA Motorsports, where they do a basically a step-by-step tutorial on how to do the conversion from the 3-wire to the 2-wire. Basically, we are removing one of the wires. I think it's an orange wire that we're cutting off completely, and then we're depinning it from the ECU, and then we're just reconnecting those 2 wires to the new plug. With the IAC, I moved the B6 black and blue wire from the slot B6, and I moved it to B23, which is just down here on the bottom right. Kind of hard to see, I apologize, but you're looking for B23. That's where you're going to be moving that positive wire. Then directly above that is your B15. This is where that orange wire would be. You're actually completely depinning that and removing it and disregarding it. You're not going to be using that wire. Now for me, I actually got lucky that the wires from the H22 matched the wire colors on the D16. So for me, I just matched them up and soldered them together. On HA Motorsports, they use different color wires here in this little diagram here. Just make sure that you're lining up the wires correctly and soldering them to the ones they're supposed to be soldered to. So doing this change is completely necessary, but at the same time, if you do have like a SI VTEC harness, this switch is already done for you, so you don't have to worry about this. I didn't have a VTEC harness initially, so I have to make this switch, or else I'm going to be running a code and running some idle control issues as well. For me, after that, I went on and worked with the EVAP wire. This is just standard from the Civic, and I'm running the same EVAP canister that I had on my D16, and I'm just going to function it with the H22. After that, we are working with our fuel injectors. Now these ones I didn't extend, even though they did have some differences in comparisons. I still might. The first time I actually just laid the harness over top of the vehicle, I figured out that I can make them work with the length that they are, because I've extended everything else that I think I should be able to reach everything. But if I run into an issue with the fuel injectors, I'll extend those, but right now I'm just leaving those as they are. TP sensor, I initially had 24 inches difference, but I added it with 36. Didn't have to add any other plugs. I luckily had enough wire. And what I'm doing, guys, as best as I can, is I am color matching even the heat shrinks, but just do your best to try and find the same color wires. I know I had an instance earlier on in this video where I had the orange wire for the alt control for the alternator. I think that was the only wire that I had a different color on in the entire harness work that I did. So just do your best to match it so you don't screw yourself up when you're doing every adjustment that you need to on the ECU side, but at the same time, it just makes it easier for the future, right? Moving on to the IAB control, I had to add this to the harness. This was not on the D16. So this one required a little bit of work. First off, it was measuring 52 inches on the prelude, so I just snipped off that from the prelude, and I think I even added a little bit more. So running the wire from that plug all the way down to the B connector on the OBD2 pinout, we're at B16 slot here where I clipped it in. Kind of hard to see there in the dark, I apologize, but right there, that's where we're clicking into, and that's the intake air bypass control solenoid valve wire. That's B16. So then from there, I ran a black yellow wire to this junction plug right here, and that'll just feed it power to make that system operate properly. Next for me was the distributor. The H22 has a 10-pin distributor where that D16 had a 8-pin, so I had to run a conversion from an 8 to a 10-pin. Now there is one wire, this blue wire right here, that's kind of just floating right there on the ground right there. That is the tack wire. I have to run that wire to the driver's side main harness. There is a pin plug area that is going to go to. I extended the distributor 48 inches in total to just give myself extra room. Next was the primary O2 sensor. I think I had to extend this roughly about 28 inches. I extended it as long as I had from the prelude, so it's much more. It's probably around 3 feet now extended. Next is the ECT sensor. I extended this one 41 inches, and yeah, that's gonna give me lots of good room to tuck that away nicely as well. Next is the EGR. I had to add this one completely. It was not on the previous harness, so 80 inches total I had to add. I took the green and black wire from there, which is running power. Then I ran it to this junction to supply power. Then the white and black wire runs all the way to the C connector. And this is the EGR lift sensor, and that goes into C6 on that connector. The final wire, which is the yellow and blue wire, that one also goes to the C connector, and that one also clicks into C28, which is just right here. This is the yellow and blue wire, which is the sensor voltage wire. Map sensor is next. Had to extend this one 17 inches. I gave it a little bit more, but this one was pretty straightforward. Didn't have to change much with anything on that. After that, we have the the backup light switch and light, so that one I had to extend 40 inches. Next was adding the VTEC wire. That one runs into B12, I believe, B12, yep, B12, and that is positioned right here on this wire right here. Kind of tight in there, but that's the B12 slot where that VTEC solenoid goes. Next was just hooking up the knock sensor. I didn't have this before, so I had to add this one. This one was 60 inches I had to add, and that is connecting to C3 on the ECU pin out right there, that one right there. A little tough to see, that red one right here on C3. That's the one right there for knock sensor.
Whoa, I like all your wires.
I know, Daddy's just working on making a video.
You just making a video?
Yeah.
I just want to see it?
Yeah.
Then look, I can see that. Just picture wires.
Mm-hmm.
No, just picture.
Oh, just take just the wires, not you?
Just not me.
Not you?
Yeah, just picture all these wires.
Okay, just looking at the wires. The last switch is the CKF bypass trick. Okay, so what you're going to be doing here first is you're taking this C22 wire, which I have upside down, C22, and you're going to splice it with C29. After you splice it, you're actually going to disregard the rest of the blue and red wire. You're going to cut it and eliminate it. So this is just going to send power back into the distributor. The final one is you're going to take your C31 and your C30. Your C30 is your CYP sensor, and then your C31 is your CKF sensor, which was initially on that 3 plug for the OBD2B. We're going to be completely eliminating that wire off that 3 plug on that OBD2B, and it's going to splice into the black wire here, which is your C30, which is going to continue on into the distributor. So here we're just eliminating the plug, and we're just doing a bypass trick to just ignore that plug entirely and not throw a code when we go ahead and try and start the car. This will actually make your car start. Without this being done, you could potentially run into issues where your car may not turn over. That's pretty much going to be it with the harness. Right now in the state that it is, it's pretty much good enough that I can go ahead and throw it inside the car and start running some tests on all the lengths. Ultimately, we still want to protect these wires a lot more, so we're going to add the proper loom and electrical tape. I'm going to really clean things up. A lot of these wires, even though they're this long, they're not going to be taped off right here, and this will just be free hanging like that. You know, a lot of these wires could be taped a little bit down the harness and tucked a little cleaner. Ultimately, I'll figure that out once I get that in there, but this is going to look even better than it is right now. It's just really well organized for myself, that I know where everything is and where it's going to be going in order. I'll save that all for the next video as well. I just wanted to give you guys an update on how things are going. I'm very happy with the recent growth in subscribers and all the comments you guys have left me. It's been really good to see. I really appreciate it, and I appreciate the amount of patience you guys had in the last while. I know I've been away, but definitely I'm going to be back to making videos for you guys. So thanks again, guys, and I'll see you guys in the next episode of Garage SpeCivic.